The clatter of chopsticks against porcelain was the only sound that mattered. My mother-in-law, Lynn, had just set down the braised pork belly, the steam carrying the scent of star anise and soy sauce, a scent that had meant home for the last 8 years of my marriage to her son, Leo. It was my 34th birthday, and the table was set for 6. My husband, Leo, was at my right, scrolling through his phone. My father-in-law, a retired accountant, was quietly pouring tea. My sister-in-law, Nora, was across from me, already picking at a piece of pickled radish with a frown. The 6th chair, next to Leo, was empty. My younger brother, Sam, was late. Again. He said he had a late meeting, I offered, trying to fill the silence. I was a project manager at a mid-sized logistics firm, a place called Horizon Freight. My job was to keep things moving, to solve problems before they became crises. I was used to filling silences. Nora sniffed. Meeting. That's what they all say. He probably just doesn't want to eat the fish. You know he hates the way Mom cooks it. Too dry. My mother-in-law's smile tightened just a fraction. She was a woman who expressed love through action, through meticulously prepared meals, and criticism of her cooking was a deep, unspoken wound. It's not dry, she said, her voice a touch too sharp. It's steamed. It's for good health. I'm sure it's delicious, Mom, I said, placing a gentle hand on Leo's arm to get his attention. Leo, can you call Sam again? He didn't look up. I texted him. He said he's on his way. He typed something else, a frown creasing his forehead. He had been distracted lately, his mind miles away. I had attributed it to his own work stress. He was a sales manager for a commercial real estate firm, and the market was cooling. On his way, Nora repeated, her voice dripping with mockery. He's probably stuck at some bar, wasting his salary. What's he doing now anyway? Still at that software startup. I heard they're bleeding cash. Nora, her father, my father-in-law, said quietly. It's your sister-in-law's birthday. Let's not start. I'm not starting, she retorted, leaning back in her chair. I'm just concerned. He's 32. He's single. He's living like a teenager. I worry about my brother. That's all. The front door clicked open. A rush of cool night air, carrying the faint sound of traffic, swept into the dining room. Sam burst in, his coat smelling of rain and his hair slightly damp. He was flustered, carrying a cake box that was slightly tilted. Sorry, everyone. The meeting ran long, and then I had to wait in line at the bakery. He put the box on the table. Happy birthday, sis. I smiled, genuinely relieved he was there. Thanks, Sam. It's fine. Look at you, always saving the day, Leo said, finally putting his phone face down on the table. He smiled at Sam, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. It was a smile I had seen him use on clients, professional and distant. What kind of cake is it? Chocolate, Sam said, pulling off his coat. Your favorite, right? It's fine, I said, deflecting. It was not my favorite. My mother-in-law knew my favorite was mango. It was a small thing, but it was the kind of small thing that had begun to feel large over the last few years. A subtle forgetting, a quiet signal of where I stood in the unspoken hierarchy of this family. The meal continued. The talk was of small things: the weather, a leaking faucet in the upstairs bathroom, a neighbor's new car. But it was a performance. The tension was palpable. Nora criticized the movie choices at the local cinema. My father-in-law complained about the rising price of fish. And Leo, my husband, the man I was supposed to be closest to, was a ghost at the table. He was present but absent, his mind locked on something else. Leo, I said, trying to pull him back, to make this seem real. Mr. Henderson is retiring from the company. They're throwing him a party on Friday. Do you want to come? It's at the golf club. He asked, blinking as if waking from a dream. Oh, right. I don't know. I might have to work late. He checked his phone again. Sam jumped in, trying to be helpful. Hey, I'm free on Friday. I can give you a ride if Leo can't make it. You, Nora scoffed. You don't even have a car that can make it past the city limits. The barb hit its mark. Sam's face flushed. I have a car, he muttered, looking down at his plate. It's fine. The old wound opened again. Sam, the perennial underachiever in their eyes, The young man who chose passion over a real job and was perpetually in a state of financial precarity. He was the family's shadow, a constant reminder of what could go wrong. I felt a pang of protectiveness. He was the only one who ever asked me how I was really doing. The conversation turned to the house. The old family home. My in-laws had been talking about downsizing for years, moving into a smaller apartment. The house was a source of constant conflict. Nora wanted them to sell it and split the money to secure her own family's future. My father-in-law clung to the memories. Leo, of course, stayed out of it. We could get a really nice place, Nora said, leaning forward. Something modern. No stairs. It would be so much easier for you, Mom. It's not about the money, it's about practicality. It's about the money, Sam said softly, under his breath. The table went quiet. My mother-in-law set down her chopsticks. The sound was definitive. The house is not for sale. She looked at her daughter, her eyes cold. It's the only thing your father and I have that is truly ours. It will stay in the family, for all of you. For all of us, Nora repeated, her voice bitter. Or for you, Sam, she asked, her gaze shifting to her brother. When are you going to get a real job? Sam, when are you going to stop relying on all of us to clean up your messes? Nora, Leo said, his voice sharp. For the first time tonight, he sounded truly present. That's enough. No, it's not, I said, my voice quiet but firm. I had had enough. Enough of the jabs, the underhanded comments, the silent accusation that always seemed to be pointed at Sam. And at me. I saw how they looked at me sometimes. The daughter-in-law who came from the other side of the city, who married the golden boy. Not quite one of them. He's working hard. Not everyone values the same things you do. This is supposed to be a celebration. Can't we just be a family for one night? The room was silent. For a moment, I thought I had one. Then, Nora stood up. She smiled, a chilling, empty gesture. Fine. You're right. It's your birthday. I apologize. She did not look at me. She looked at her mother. I'll make some tea. She left the table. The tension was broken, but the fissures were now clearly visible. Sam looked grateful, but Leo would not meet my eyes. He was looking at his phone again, his face pale. The wonderful, loving, united family I had married into 8 years ago was a carefully constructed illusion. Later, I went into the kitchen to help my mother-in-law with the dishes. The hot water felt good on my hands. She was silent, scrubbing the wok with furious energy. Thank you for the dinner, Mom, I said. It was delicious. She stopped scrubbing. She looked at me, her expression unreadable. You think I don't see it, don't you? She asked. See what I asked, my stomach clenching. She turned back to the wok. You're a good wife. You try to keep the peace. But a woman's place is in her home, with her family. Nora is right about one thing. Sam is a drain. He is a reminder of a failure. You always defend him. You are loyal to a fault, perhaps. She dried the wok and hung it on the hook. But loyalty must be earned. It can be misplaced. Remember that. It was a warning. A direct threat. A subtle severing of the last thread that held me in the warm embrace of this family. My father-in-law was in the living room, watching the news. I found Leo in our bedroom, his head in his hands. The door was shut. What's wrong? I asked, sitting beside him. He would not look at me. Nothing. I'm tired. He lay back, his back to me. The wall between us was not made of plaster and wood. It was made of secrets. The night ended. The cake was half-eaten. The dishes were done. The guests were gone. Lying in the dark, staring at the ceiling, I realized the birthday dinner was not a celebration. It was a tribunal. And I had been found wanting. The family's betrayal was subtle, a war of attrition fought with silence and pointed remarks. But a new, more devastating betrayal was waiting, one that would crumble the very foundation of my life. I just did not know it yet. The smell of instant coffee and stale printer paper was the perfume of my office. It was a familiar, almost comforting scent, a sign that life was normal. I was at my desk, the morning light casting long shadows across the floor of my cubicle, trying to concentrate on a schedule for a new shipment route. It had been a week since the birthday dinner. The memory of that night was a bruise I could not stop pressing on. I tried to focus on the logistics software, a clunky program called TrackPath. It was my job to manage the flow of goods for our biggest client, a national chain of hardware stores. It was not glamorous, but it was stable. It was predictable. And right now, I needed predictability. My manager, a man named Derek, appeared at the entrance to my cubicle. He was a man who measured success in billable hours, and he had the personality of a filing cabinet. "Evelyn," he said, his voice a monotone. "I need you in the conference room. Meeting in 5. "What about?" I asked, straightening my papers. "Just a review of the Caldwell Logistics account," he said. "Standard procedure." But as I walked to the conference room, I was struck by an uneasy feeling. The door was closed. From inside, I could hear the low murmur of voices. I opened the door and found Derek, of course, and a man from the finance department, a man named Mr. Millman, who always looked like he was auditing for a secret crime. And then there was another woman, someone I had never seen before. She was dressed in a sharp, expensive-looking suit, her posture radiating cold authority. "Evelyn," Derek said, gesturing to an empty chair. "This is Ms. Alastair. She is a consultant from the head office. She is here to do a full efficiency audit on our division." An efficiency audit. It was corporate speak for "let us look for people we can fire to save money." I had been through them before. They were stressful, but typically harmless. As long as you could prove your worth, you were safe. I was one of the most senior project managers in the division. I was safe. Ms. Alastair offered a cold smile. "Miss Chin, I have been reviewing your file. Very impressive. Particularly your work on the Caldwell Logistics account. You managed to reduce their shipping costs by 12% last year. That is a significant achievement." "Thank you," I said, feeling a flicker of pride. "It is a testament to your trustworthiness," she said, looking at me over her glasses. "That is what we value here at Horizon Freight. Trust, reliability, an innate sense of loyalty to the company." The word loyalty hung in the air. It was the same word my mother-in-law had used last week. My gut tightened. "Now," Ms. Alastair continued, opening a file folder. "We have been looking at some of the project data. There is a specific discrepancy in the cost reporting for the Caldwell Logistics account. It is a minor thing, but we believe it needs to be explained." She slid a spreadsheet across the table toward me. I looked at the columns. It was a report I had generated. It showed the invoices for a series of shipments made last month. It was a standard transport fee, $6,250. And then, on the same page, there was a second report for the same shipment, an identical invoice, also generated in my name. "As you can see," she said, her voice smooth as glass, "the same shipment was invoiced twice. Once to Caldwell Logistics and once to a separate account. We traced that second account. It belongs to a shell company called Oak Street Transport. Does that name ring a bell?" My heart began to pound. "No. I have no idea what that is." "The second payment," Derek said, finally speaking, his voice hard, "was made, and then there is a record of a transfer from the Oak Street account to your personal savings account, Ms. Chen." The world stopped. I felt the blood drain from my face. "That is impossible. There has been a mistake. You can check the logs. I never made a transfer. I never set up a second invoice. I do not even know how to set up a dummy account in the system." "Miss Chen," Ms. Alastair said, her voice taking on a tone of finality. "The evidence is clear. The system logs show that both invoices were created by you. The transfer was initiated from your desk. The timestamp is from 3 weeks ago at 8:14 p.m. You were working late that night. It is all in the report." My mind raced. I did work late that night. I had been in the office, trying to finish the quarter's end reports. But I was alone. Or was I remembered getting up to get some water, leaving my computer unlocked. It was a habit I had, a lazy one. The office was empty, or so I thought. Or maybe. I thought of a moment, the sound of footsteps, the creak of the floorboard. My colleague, Kevin. He was also working late that night. He left his desk to get something from the printer. He could have walked by. He could have seen my screen. Kevin. He had been at Horizon Freight for 4 years. We started as rivals, but over time, a functional professionalism developed. He was ambitious, I knew. He wanted Derek's job. And last month, he was passed over for a promotion. I got it instead. No, I said, my voice trembling. It was not me. I was set up. I think someone framed me. Miss Alistair exchanged a look with Derek. It was a look of utter certainty. The look of people who had already made up their minds. Evelyn, Derek said, his tone a poor imitation of sympathy. I have known you for 5 years. I know you are a good person. But the data does not lie. He paused. We are not going to the police. Yet? But we are placing you on immediate administrative leave, pending a full investigation. You will need to gather your personal belongings and leave the building. Your security access will be revoked. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. My hands were shaking. This is wrong, I said. This is a mistake. I am being set up. The review board will be in touch, Ms. Alistair said, her eyes cold. Mr. Millman here will see you to your desk. The walk back to my cubicle was a blur. I could feel my colleagues' eyes on me. Whispers followed me like a cloud of gnats. I had been here for 8 years. 8 years of loyalty, of working weekends, of giving up birthday dinners and family gatherings. And now, in a matter of minutes, they had cast me out. Mr. Millman stood over me as I packed a box of my personal effects, a photo of Leo and me on our honeymoon, a sad-looking succulent that had been on my desk for years, a coffee mug from Sam. I am innocent, I said to him, my voice breaking. He just shrugged, a small, dismissive gesture. He did not care. He was just an instrument of the company. This was the true betrayal. Not by a stranger, but by the system I had dedicated my life to. It was a cold-blooded, soulless thing. At home, I could barely speak. I waited for Leo to get back from work. I told him everything, the story tumbling out of me in a rushed, frantic torrent. He listened, his face pale and unreadable. He did not say anything. When I was done, a long silence stretched between us. What is it? I asked, my voice a whisper. You think I did it, too? He looked at me, his eyes full of a strange, conflicted emotion. No, he said, but there was no conviction in his voice. He rubbed his face. It is just you have been so stressed lately. You have been distant. You have been having so many late nights. And this thing with Sam, with my family, I do not know what is going on with you anymore. He did not believe me. The first person I turned to for comfort, and he looked at me as if I were a stranger. His suspicion, his lack of faith, was a second knife in my back. I thought of Sam. I needed to talk to him. I called his phone. It went to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. He was the only person I could rely on now. I was isolated, cast out from my professional life, my marriage fractured, and the one person I had left was unreachable. I was being systematically stripped of everything I thought I had. That night, I did not sleep. I sat in the dark of the living room, staring out the window at the city lights. My work life had been publicly destroyed, my family life was in ruins, and I had not even uncovered the worst of the betrayal yet. The calm before the storm was over. Now, the storm was here. The morning after I was fired, I woke up to an empty apartment. Leo's side of the bed was cold. He had left a note on the kitchen counter, written in his sharp, tidy handwriting. Went to the office early. We will talk later. It was not I am sorry or we will figure this out. It was a dismissal. A way to avoid the mess. I spent the morning in a daze. I called Sam again. Still no answer. His phone just rang and rang, a hollow, empty sound. My brother had a habit of disappearing when he was stressed, but this felt different. A cold dread started to creep into my heart. Just after noon, my phone buzzed. It was not a call, but a text from my mother-in-law, Lynn. It was a group text, addressed to me, Leo, Nora, and Sam. Sunday dinner. The usual time. We need to talk. Family matters. It was a summons. A trial. I did not want to go. Every instinct was screaming at me to stay home, to curl up on the couch and hide from the world. But I also knew that if I did not show up, it would be seen as an admission of guilt. I had to face them. On Sunday, Leo returned home in the afternoon. He was dressed in a jacket, more formal than necessary. He hardly spoke to me on the drive to his parents' house. The silence in the car was thick and suffocating. We arrived to find my in-laws waiting. My mother-in-law was seated in her favorite armchair, her hands folded in her lap. My father-in-law was next to her, looking uncomfortable. Nora was already there, positioned on the sofa like a judge on a bench. She had her tablet out, her fingers poised over it. She did not even look up when we walked in. "Where is Sam?" Leo asked, breaking the silence. "He is not coming," Nora said, her voice flat. "He said he is not feeling well." "Convenient, is it not?" I sat down, my hands clammy. "Why are we here?" I asked. My mother-in-law spoke first. Her voice was calm, but there was a steely edge to it. "Your brother, Sam, is not coming. But that is not our main concern. Our main concern is you, Evelyn." I felt my stomach drop. "What do you mean?" "We got a letter," my father-in-law said, his voice low and hesitant. "It was sent to the house. It was a formal complaint from your place of work." "What? How could they send a letter here? That is private." I said, my voice rising. "They said you would not respond to their calls," Nora said, finally looking at me. There was a glint of triumph in her eyes. "They said you were, and I quote, uncooperative. That you were involved in financial crimes. That the company had to protect itself." "It is a lie," I said, looking around the room, searching for an ally. "I was framed." "I told you this, Leo." Leo, who had been standing by the door, spoke up. His voice was quiet, but firm. "Evelyn, you have to see how this looks. You were working late. The money was transferred to your account. It is not a conspiracy theory." "It is not a conspiracy theory," I said, my voice shaking. "It is a setup. Someone in my office did this to me. Kevin, the man I was competing with. He wants my job." "So, a work rival framed you," Nora said, a mocking tone in her voice. "That is your story." "It is not a story, it is the truth," I pleaded. "Why would I risk everything for $6,000, my entire career? It makes no sense." My mother-in-law shook her head. "Sometimes people do things that do not make sense to others. It is called desperation. Your brother is a perfect example." She looked at me with a pitying gaze. "We have all been very patient, Evelyn. But you have always been distant. You have never been fully part of this family. You have always made your own choices. This is a result of that." "That is not true," I cried. I looked at Leo. "Tell them, Leo. Tell them about the dinner. About your mother's cooking. About how Nora treats Sam. This family is not perfect. It is full of secrets." Nora stood up, pointing her tablet at me. "Do not you dare blame our family for your failures. You are a guest here. And guests who take advantage of our hospitality enough," my father-in-law said, slamming his hand on the coffee table. The room fell silent. Leo finally looked at me, but his eyes were not full of love or solidarity. They were full of accusation. "I called your work," he said. His voice was hollow. "I called the head office. They did not send a letter here. There is no official complaint about you. I was trying to help you, to see if I could find a lawyer. I asked them why there was no formal report, and they told me they never sent a letter to this address." The silence in the room was so absolute I could hear the clock ticking on the mantelpiece. "Then who sent the letter?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Nora's face flushed. She looked down at her tablet. My mother-in-law's expression was stone. My father-in-law stared at his hands. "It was Nora," Leo said, looking at his sister with a look of pure disgust. "She told me she sent it. She did it because she wanted to prove that you were a liar. That you were corrupt. She wanted to make sure you were completely isolated." The world tilted. I looked at Nora, and I saw it. The jealousy, the resentment, the years of simmering hatred for the woman who married her brother. She wanted to destroy me. Nora let out a shaky breath. "He was going to leave her anyway," she said, her voice defiant. "He was going to leave her for me." "Leave me?" I asked, looking between Leo and Nora. "What are you talking about?" Leo was pale. He looked at his sister, then at me. He finally spoke. "The day I called your work, I went to your office. I was meeting Nora there. To talk. To finalize my plans." "Plans for what?" I asked, my voice hollow. "I was going to file for divorce," he said, the words dropping like stones. "I was going to leave you." I was planning to do it 2 weeks ago. I stared at him, my mind blank. This was the final betrayal. He was not distracted by work. He was plotting to leave me. All those late nights, the cold looks, the distance, it was not just work stress. It was him slipping away. But why? I asked. Because I am not the man you think I am, he said, his voice trembling. I made some investments that went bad. I am in debt. Deep debt. I was going to ask you to sign the house over to me, to sell it to cover it. I thought if I left you, you would be free of the mess I made. But I was a coward. And he gestured to Nora, she told me if I did not have the courage, she would make it easier by destroying you first. The truth was a physical blow. My husband, the man I trusted, was about to abandon me. His sister, my sister-in-law, was actively trying to ruin my life to help him do it. And all for money. All for a debt he was too ashamed to tell me about. You plan to ruin me to save your own skin, I said, looking at Leo. No, he said. I mean, yes, at first. But then I saw what Nora did. I could not go through with it. I could not let her do that to you. That is why I am telling you now. So what now? I asked. You are my hero now. You are saving me from the family you were part of destroying me. I know what I did was wrong, he said, stepping forward. I know I am a coward. But I can fix this. I can help you prove your innocence. We can go to the police. We can tell them everything about the accounts. I will testify against Nora. Nora snorted. You will not do that, Leo. You are in debt up to your eyeballs. I can still destroy you both. I have the evidence of the fraud. Remember, I can send it to the police myself. Then do it, I said, my voice cold and quiet. Go ahead. Report me. It does not matter to me anymore. The truth is out. The only secret left is what is in your own heart, Nora. You are a bitter, jealous woman who has to tear other people down just to feel alive. I stood up. I looked at my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, and then at my husband and his sister. This is not a family. It is a courtroom. And I refuse to be a defendant anymore. I walked out of the house, leaving the shattered remnants of my old life behind. The betrayal was total. My career was gone. My marriage was over. My family had shown their true colors. And yet, as I walked away into the cold night air, I felt a strange sense of relief. The secrets were out. The lies had been exposed. And now I could finally see the enemy clearly. And the enemy was not just Kevin or Nora or Leo. The enemy was the web of lies they had all spun around me. And I would not be trapped in it anymore. The shock of the family tribunal had not worn off. I had not slept, and the days blurred together. After I walked out of my in-laws' house, I went straight to Sam's apartment. It was a small, cluttered studio on the edge of the city, the kind of place that smelled like old pizza and ambition. I banged on his door, needing an ally, needing someone to tell me I was not losing my mind. He opened the door, his face drawn and haggard. He looked like he had not slept in a week. Evelyn, he said, pulling me inside. I heard. I wanted to come, but I could not face them. For the first time in days, I felt a flicker of connection. I told him everything, the office meeting, the fake invoices, Leo's planned divorce, Nora's calculated betrayal. I told him about the letter, and he just listened, his face unreadable. I am sorry, sis, he said when I was done. I am so sorry. He looked away from me. But I need to tell you something. His confession came out in a rush. He was the one who borrowed my laptop 3 months ago, when his own broke. He had his own financial troubles, a gambling debt he was trying to pay off. He met a man at a bar, a slick operator, who offered him a way to make a quick $5,000. All I had to do was get access to your work system, Sam said, his voice trembling. He gave me a USB drive. I was supposed to plug it in and run a program while you were asleep. He said it would copy some data, nothing more. He said it was just for a research project. I was desperate, Evelyn. I did not think it would hurt you. The air left my lungs. You let someone into my computer. You gave a stranger access to my company's network. I know, he said, tears streaming down his face. I know it was stupid. But I did not create the false invoices. I swear. I did not know that is what the program did. It was just supposed to copy some client lists. But now I realize. He must have used that access to create the false entries in your name. He used me to set you up, Evelyn. I am the reason you lost your job. I am the reason you are in this mess. The betrayal was so deep, so profound, that I did not even feel anger. I felt a profound, bone-weary sadness. My own brother, the person I had always protected, used me. He did not mean to, but that did not change what he did. The family I had tried to hold together was not just broken, it was rotten from the inside. Who was the man? I asked, my voice flat. What was his name? I do not know, Sam said, shaking his head. He only called himself Frank. I met him at the Rusty Mug. He wore a suit, looked like a businessman. I was drowning in debt, Evelyn. I did not ask questions. I am so sorry. I stood up. I felt hollow. You are sorry, I said, my voice barely a whisper. You are sorry that you let a stranger destroy my career. I can fix it, he said, grasping my arm. I can help you find him. I can testify. I can tell the police everything. And what if the police do not believe you? I asked. What if they think you are just covering for me? He did not have an answer. The next few days were a haze of anxiety. I tried to contact the police, but they were reluctant to open an investigation without evidence. They told me it was a civil matter, that it was between me and my employer. They did not understand the scale of the conspiracy. I decided to go back to Horizon Freight. I needed to talk to Kevin. I needed to confront him. He was the only person in the office who would have the technical know-how to set up a shell account without leaving an obvious trail. He also had the motive. I waited for him outside the office building. He emerged at 6, looking smug, a briefcase in his hand. I saw him, and I walked up to him. He did not seem surprised to see me. In fact, he looked almost amused. Evelyn, he said, a fake smile on his face. How are you doing? Heard you were looking for a new job. I know it was you, Kevin, I said, my voice steady. You framed me. You used my brother to get access to the system, and you created those false invoices. He scoffed. Your brother, the loser who cannot hold a job. That is a nice story, Evelyn. But you have no proof. The invoices were created from your terminal. The transfer was authorized from your account. It is all traceable to you. You are the one who knows how to set up shell accounts, I said. You are the one who wanted my job. Wanted your job, he said, his laugh cold and sharp. I do not want your job, Evelyn. I was going to get it anyway. But I heard you had a life insurance policy. I heard you were planning to cash out. What? I asked, confused. What are you talking about? He looked at me with a strange expression. Do not play dumb. The policy you took out on your mother-in-law, the one you were going to use to pay off your husband's debts, I do not care about that. I just wanted you out of the way. The promotion was mine. And now I am Derek's right-hand man. My mind reeled. A life insurance policy on my mother-in-law. I had no such policy. And why would Kevin think I did this was a piece of a puzzle I did not understand. I do not have a life insurance policy, I said. Kevin's smile faltered. Sure you do. It is called Sunrise Assurance. I saw the paperwork. You were filing it for your mother-in-law's life. You were planning to use the payout to get your husband out of debt. My blood ran cold. Sunrise Assurance, I repeated. The name was familiar. It was the same company my husband had mentioned in passing a few months ago when he was talking about a new financial advisor. I realized with a sickening lurch that Leo must have set up the policy in my name. He was planning to collect the money if my mother-in-law died. He was planning to use my name to cover his tracks, just like Nora used the letter to isolate me. Kevin was just a pawn. He was used by someone else, someone who knew about my mother-in-law's policy and my husband's debts. Someone who wanted to destroy me. Who told you about the policy? I asked, my voice shaking. Kevin shrugged. Some woman. A lawyer. She said she was working for you. She said you wanted me to have the information. A woman? I asked. What did she look like? I do not know. Mid-30s, dark hair, expensive suit. She did not give her name. She just said, your only chance for promotion is if Evelyn Chin is discredited. And then she gave me the information on how to set up the fake invoices. I felt the pieces of the puzzle clicking together, forming a terrifying picture. The woman was Nora. Nora, who had access to my family's finances. Nora, who resented me. Nora, who wanted to destroy me to protect her brother's secret and to further her own agenda. She enlisted Kevin to do the dirty work, feeding him just enough information to make him a willing participant. She was the architect of this entire conspiracy. I walked away from Kevin, my mind racing. I had no allies. My brother was a liability, my husband was a coward, and my sister-in-law was a master manipulator. But now I knew the truth. The fraud was not just about my job. It was about money, greed, and the utter destruction of my life. And I was not going to let them get away with it. I spent the next 2 days in a fog of grim determination. The betrayal had a shape now, a face. Nora was the architect, Kevin was the builder, and Leo was the silent partner who had watched it all happen. But I was not going to be their victim. I was going to fight back. I went to see a lawyer, a woman named Mrs. Patterson, who had a small office above a bakery. She was in her 60s, with silver hair and kind eyes, but there was steel in her voice when she spoke. I told her everything. The fake invoices, the shell company, the USB drive Sam had plugged into my computer, the life insurance policy I had never taken out, and the woman in the expensive suit who had fed Kevin the information. Mrs. Patterson listened without interrupting. When I was done, she leaned back in her chair and folded her hands on her desk. "This is a mess," she said. "But it is not hopeless. The life insurance policy is the key. If your husband set it up in your name without your knowledge, that is fraud. And if your sister-in-law used that information to orchestrate the rest, that is conspiracy. We can prove this, but we need evidence." "Where do I start?" I asked. "Start with the insurance company. Sunrise Assurance. Go there in person. Ask for a copy of the policy. They will not give it to you without a court order, but they might confirm that it exists. That will be enough to get a judge to compel them to release the records." I left her office with a small flicker of hope. It was a thin thread, but it was something. The next morning, I took the bus to the Sunrise Assurance office. It was a gleaming glass building in the financial district, full of people in suits carrying briefcases. I felt out of place in my worn jacket and flat shoes, but I walked up to the reception desk with my head held high. "I need information about a policy," I said to the young woman behind the counter. "It is under my name, Evelyn Chin." She typed something into her computer. "I am sorry, Miss Chin, but I cannot release any information without proper identification and a written request." "I understand," I said. "But can you at least confirm that a policy exists under my name? That is all I am asking." She hesitated, then looked at her screen again. Her expression shifted, a flicker of recognition. "Miss Chin, I am afraid I cannot discuss this with you. You will need to speak with our legal department." My heart sank. They were stonewalling me. Someone had already gotten to them. I thanked her and walked away, my mind churning. Nora must have called them. She must have warned them that I would come asking questions. I called Mrs. Patterson from a payphone outside the building. "They will not give me anything," I said. "They told me to talk to their legal department." "That is standard procedure," she said. "Do not worry. I will file a motion with the court tomorrow morning. We will get the records." I hung up and stood on the street, watching the traffic flow by. I felt like a tiny boat in a storm, tossed around by forces I could not control. But I was still afloat. I was still fighting. That evening, I went to see Sam. He was at his apartment, pale and anxious. He had not left the house in days. "Did you find anything?" he asked as soon as I walked in. "I found out that Nora is the one behind all of this," I said. "She used you, she used Kevin, and she used Leo. She orchestrated everything to destroy me." Sam's face crumpled. "I am so sorry, Evelyn. I am so sorry. I will do anything to make this right. I will go to the police. I will tell them everything." "Not yet," I said. "We need more evidence first. But soon, we will go together." He nodded, tears streaming down his face. For the first time, I saw him not as the family's failure, but as a victim of the same web of manipulation that had ensnared me. We were in this together now. The next day, I decided to confront Nora. I knew it was risky, but I needed to see her face when I told her I knew the truth. I drove to her house, a tidy little bungalow in the suburbs. She answered the door in a silk blouse and pressed slacks, looking as composed as ever. "Nora," I said. "We need to talk." She raised an eyebrow. I have nothing to say to you, Evelyn. You are not welcome here. I know about the life insurance policy, I said, stepping past her into the living room. I know you set it up in my name. I know you fed Kevin the information he needed to frame me. I know you are the one who destroyed my career. Her composure cracked for just a moment. A flicker of panic crossed her face, but she quickly recovered. I have no idea what you are talking about, she said, her voice cold. You are delusional. You need help. Do not lie to me, I said. I have a lawyer. I am filing a motion to get the insurance records. I am going to the police. Your little scheme is about to fall apart. Nora laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. You think you can beat me? You are nothing, Evelyn. You were nothing when you married my brother, and you are nothing now. You were always a guest in this family. A charity case. I was just the one brave enough to say it out loud. You're a coward, I said, my voice shaking with anger. You hid behind lies and manipulation because you were too afraid to face me directly. But I am not afraid of you anymore. I am going to tear down everything you have built. She stepped closer to me, her eyes blazing. Try it, she said. And I will destroy you. I will make sure you never get another job. I will make sure your brother goes to jail for fraud. I will make sure your husband leaves you with nothing. You have no idea what I am capable of. I stared at her, and for a moment, I felt a chill run down my spine. She was not bluffing. She was a predator, and she was not going to give up without a fight. But I was not going to back down either. Dear Worst, I said. I am ready for you. I walked out of her house, my heart pounding. I had drawn a line in the sand. Now, the real battle would begin. The days after my confrontation with Nora were a blur of waiting and worry. I stayed at Sam's apartment, sleeping on his lumpy sofa, because I could not bear to be in the same house as Leo. He had called me several times, leaving voicemails that ranged from apologetic to defensive, but I did not answer. I was not ready to speak to him. I was not sure I ever would be. Mrs. Patterson called me on a Thursday morning. Her voice was brisk and businesslike. The court has approved our motion, she said. Sunrise Assurance is required to release the policy documents within 48 hours. We will have the evidence we need by the weekend. I felt a surge of hope. Finally, something was going my way. What happens after we get the records? I asked. Then we go to the police, she said. We will present them with the evidence of fraud and conspiracy, and they will have to open a criminal investigation. Your sister-in-law and your husband will face serious charges. What about Kevin? I asked. He is a secondary player, she said. But he will be implicated as well. The important thing is to establish a clear chain of evidence that links Nora to the scheme. The insurance policy is the linchpin. Once we have that, the rest will fall into place. I hung up and told Sam the news. He looked relieved, but also nervous. What if they do not believe us? He asked. What if they think we are making it all up? They will believe the evidence, I said. That is all that matters. But I was not as confident as I sounded. Nora had proven herself to be a formidable enemy. She had resources, connections, and a ruthless determination to protect herself. I knew she would not go down without a fight. That night, I lay on the sofa, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic. I thought about everything I had lost. My career, my marriage, my sense of self. And I thought about everything I had gained. Clarity, strength, the knowledge that I could survive. The next morning, I woke to the sound of Sam's phone ringing. He answered it, his voice groggy. Then I heard him gasp. What? He said. When no, she is right here. I will tell her. He hung up and turned to me, his face pale. That was the police, he said. They arrested Nora this morning. She has been charged with fraud, conspiracy, and making false statements. I sat up, my heart pounding. What? How the insurance records are not even ready yet? I do not know, he said. But they said she was caught trying to destroy evidence. Someone tipped them off. They raided her house and found paperwork linking her to the shell company. I felt a dizzying mix of shock and relief. It was happening. The walls were closing in on Nora. But who had tipped off the police? It could not have been me. I had not called them yet. And then I realized the only other person who knew enough to do that was Leo. I called him, my hands trembling. He answered on the first ring. "Evelyn," he said, his voice strained. "I need to see you." "Why did you do it?" I asked. "Why did you call the police?" There was a long pause. Then he said, "Because I could not let her destroy you. I am the one who set up the insurance policy. I was a coward. I let her manipulate me. But I could not live with myself if I let her go through with it. I am sorry, Evelyn. I am so sorry." I did not know what to say. I was angry at him, furious at his weakness and his betrayal. But I also understood that he had finally done the right thing. It was not enough to undo the damage, but it was a start. "I will come over," I said. "We need to talk." I drove to our apartment, my mind racing. When I walked through the door, Leo was sitting at the kitchen table, his head in his hands. He looked older, more haggard, as if the weight of his guilt had physically aged him. "Tell me everything," I said, sitting across from him. "From the beginning." He took a deep breath and began. He told me about the bad investments, the mounting debt, the fear that he would lose everything. He told me about Nora's suggestion that he take out a life insurance policy on his mother to cash out before she died. He told me about the plan to frame me for fraud so that I would be discredited and he could divorce me without having to split the assets. "I never wanted to hurt you," he said, his voice breaking. "I was just so scared. I thought if I could get out of the debt, I could start over. But I did not realize how deep Nora's hatred for you ran. She wanted to destroy you, Evelyn. She wanted to make sure you had nothing." "Why?" I asked. "Why does she hate me so much?" "Because you are everything she is not," he said. "You are strong. You are independent. You built a career on your own. She has always been jealous of you. And when I started to struggle, she saw an opportunity to get rid of you and protect herself at the same time." I sat back, letting his words sink in. It was a story of jealousy, greed, and cowardice. But it was also a story of redemption. Leo had finally chosen to do the right thing, even if it meant destroying his own sister. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now we let the police do their job," he said. "I will cooperate fully. I will testify against Nora. And I will do everything I can to make this right." I looked at him, this man I had loved and trusted, who had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I did not know if I could ever forgive him. But I knew that I was not going to let his weakness define my future. I was going to rebuild my life on my own terms. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I sat in the gallery every day, watching Nora's carefully constructed world crumble piece by piece. She had hired a high-priced lawyer, a man with silver hair and a voice like honey, but even he could not spin the evidence into innocence. The insurance policy was undeniable, signed by Leo, but clearly benefiting Nora's scheme. The phone records showed her calls to Kevin. The bank statements traced the money from the shell company to accounts she controlled. Kevin had been arrested a week after Nora. He broke down in questioning and confessed everything, implicating her in exchange for a lighter sentence. Sam testified about the USB drive, his voice shaking but his words clear. Leo took the stand as well, his face pale and drawn, and admitted his role in the conspiracy. He did not try to defend himself. He just told the truth. Nora sat in the defendant's chair, her composure finally shattered. She looked small and tired, her expensive suit wrinkled, her hair unkempt. When the verdict came down, guilty on all counts, she did not even flinch. She just stared straight ahead, as if she had already accepted her fate. The judge sentenced her to 5 years in prison. Leo received a suspended sentence and community service in recognition of his cooperation. Kevin was given 2 years, reduced for his testimony. Sam was not charged, but he was given a formal warning, and I could see the shame still clinging to him. After the trial, I stood outside the courthouse, the sun warm on my face. I felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. The truth was out. Justice had been served. But I knew that was only the beginning of my healing. Leo approached me, his hands in his pockets. "Evelyn," he said, his voice hesitant. "Can we talk?" I nodded. We walked to a small park across the street and sat on a bench under an old oak tree. The leaves rustled in the breeze, and I watched a group of children playing on the swings. "I know I cannot undo what I did," he said. I know I do not deserve your forgiveness. But I want you to know that I am sorry. I am going to get help. Therapy. I am going to figure out why I made such terrible choices. I looked at him, this man I had once loved with all my heart. He was broken, but he was trying to rebuild. I could not forgive him yet, but I could acknowledge his effort. I am not going to file for divorce, I said. Not yet. But I need time. I need space. I need to figure out who I am without all of this chaos. He nodded, his eyes glistening. I understand. I will wait as long as it takes. We parted ways, and I walked back to Sam's apartment. He was waiting for me, his face anxious. How did it go? He asked. It is over, I said. Now we move on. Over the next few months, I rebuilt my life from the ground up. I found a new job at a smaller logistics firm called Bridgeport Shipping. It was not as glamorous as Horizon Freight, but the people were kind, and the work was steady. I rented a small apartment of my own, a cozy place with a window that looked out onto a courtyard garden. I started going for walks in the evening, reconnecting with the simple pleasures I had neglected for so long. Sam started a new job too, at a hardware store. He was not making much, but he was sober and reliable, and he seemed happier than I had ever seen him. He visited me on weekends, and we would cook dinner together, laughing at old memories and making new ones. Leo and I went to counseling. It was hard, painful work, dredging up all the hurt and betrayal. But slowly, tentatively, we started to heal. We began to talk, really talk, about our fears and our hopes. It was not a fairy tale. There were setbacks, moments of anger and sadness. But we were both committed to trying. My mother-in-law called me one evening. I had not spoken to her since the dinner, and I braced myself for another attack. But her voice was soft, almost apologetic. Evelyn, she said. I want to say I am sorry. I should have supported you. I should have seen what Nora was doing. I failed you. I was silent for a moment. Then I said, Thank you, Mom. That means a lot. We talked for a while longer, about small things, the weather and the garden and her new recipes. It was a tentative step toward reconciliation, but it was a step. One evening, I sat on my balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. I thought about everything I had been through, the betrayal, the loss, the pain. But I also thought about the strength I had found, the resilience I had discovered in myself. I was not the same person I had been a year ago. I was harder, wiser, but also more compassionate. I still had a long way to go. My marriage was still fragile, my career was still rebuilding, and the scars of the past still ached. But for the first time in a long time, I felt hope. I felt peace. The next morning, I woke early and went for a walk. The streets were quiet, the air fresh and clean. I passed by a coffee shop and decided to stop in. As I was waiting for my order, I saw a familiar face in the corner. It was Mrs. Patterson, my lawyer, reading a newspaper and sipping her tea. I walked over to her table. Mrs. Patterson, I said. It is good to see you. She looked up and smiled. Evelyn. How are you doing? I am doing well, I said. I wanted to thank you for everything you did for me. I do not think I could have made it through without you. She waved a hand dismissively. You would have found a way. You are a fighter, Evelyn. I have seen a lot of clients in my time, but not many with your courage. We talked for a while longer, and then I went on my way. I felt a sense of gratitude for the people who had helped me, and a sense of pride for the person I had become. Life was not perfect, and it never would be. But I had learned that perfection was not the goal. The goal was to keep going, to keep growing, to keep finding joy in the small moments. I had been knocked down, but I had gotten back up. And that was enough. As I walked back to my apartment, the sun warming my face, I smiled. The storm was over, and the sun had finally broken through. 6 months after the trial, I stood at the kitchen window of my small apartment, watching the rain streak down the glass. The garden below was lush and green, the flowers blooming despite the gray sky. It was a Saturday morning, and I had nowhere to be. That was a luxury I had not appreciated before. The simple act of being still, of not running from one crisis to the next, felt like a gift. Leo and I had been seeing each other again, slowly, carefully. We went for walks in the park, had dinner at quiet restaurants, talked about everything and nothing. The trust was not fully restored, and I was not sure it ever would be. But we had both changed. He had learned to be honest, even when it was uncomfortable. I had learned to set boundaries, to protect my own heart first. Sam came over that afternoon, carrying a bag of groceries and a bottle of wine. He had been promoted at the hardware store, and he was dating a woman named Clara who worked in the accounting department. She was kind and steady, and she did not judge him for his past mistakes. "I am making my famous spaghetti," he announced, setting the bag on the counter. "You are going to love it." I laughed. "Your famous spaghetti is just noodles with canned sauce." "It is the thought that counts," he said, grinning. We cooked together, the kitchen filling with the smell of garlic and tomatoes. We talked about work, about Clara, about our plans for the summer. It was ordinary, unremarkable, and utterly perfect. After dinner, Leo called. He was at his parents' house, helping his father fix a leaky faucet. He sounded tired but content. "How is your evening going?" he asked. "Sam made spaghetti," I said. "It was edible." Leo laughed, a warm, genuine sound. "That is high praise coming from you. Listen, my mom wants to know if you would come over for dinner next Sunday. She is making your favorite mango cake." I hesitated for a moment. The thought of going back to that house, of sitting at that table, still brought a twinge of unease. But I also knew that my mother-in-law had changed. She had apologized, sincerely, and she had made an effort to rebuild our relationship. "I will think about it," I said. "Tell her thank you." We talked for a few more minutes, and then I hung up. The rain had stopped, and the sky was clearing. A shaft of golden light broke through the clouds, illuminating the garden below. I sat on the balcony, a cup of tea in my hands, and watched the world go by. The neighbors were walking their dogs, a couple was arguing about a parking spot, a child was riding her bike in circles. It was life, in all its messy, beautiful reality. I had come a long way from the woman who had stood in that courtroom, broken and betrayed. I was still healing, still learning, still growing. But I was no longer defined by what had happened to me. I was defined by what I had done with it. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. I took a deep breath, savoring the moment. The storm was over, and I was ready for whatever came next.